Evening all, Daniel Hand, RPG therapist. Cards. I am an absolute sucker for cards. Seriously, show me a card with something cool on it, and the odds are very high that my bank account will suffer. And when I say cool, that's a very broad definition. It can be cool art, cool wording, cool mechanics if it's from a game. Yeah, just anything that captures my imagination qualifies as cool. And as you just saw, I have so many of them. I have tarot cards, oracle cards, Mirrior Armors, storytelling cards, RPG accessories, card-based games, standard playing cards, obviously, and there are always more on the way. So today, in what is essentially another episode of Daniel's Hands, I'm just going to rifle through some of these many cards and pontificate about how and why we might use them as part of therapy more generally, and RPG therapy in particular. Depending on the type of cards you're using, there's almost no end to what you can do with them, from conversation starters to story inspiration to just being a random number generator. And today I'll take a very brief, very broad look at some of those potential uses. But to be honest, I just wanted an excuse to gush over some of my shiny toys. So let's go. So then, the best place to start would probably be the humble deck of playing cards. No doubt the vast majority of us owns at least one of these, and even if you don't, you know what they are. 52 cards plus a couple of jokers generally, 4 suits, ace to king, etc, etc, etc. You don't need me to tell you what these are. These ones are actually from Colossal, and as you can see, they've got special pictures on them. Sure, you could play any number of card games with these, either as a game with your client or as part of your RPG, but specifically for RPG work, if you don't have any dice but you've got a deck of cards, just have them draw a card and say 6 plus is a success, 5 below is a failure, ace critical failure, king critical success, job done. Or something like Colossal, you can refer to some tables, draw your card, and whenever that particular card comes up, you follow the prompt as given. The great thing about these particular cards is that Nick Angel's actually taken the prompts from the book and put them on the card. So instead of me having to draw the 4 of spades and consult the book to find out that my character's come across some ancient ruins, I can just look at the card and say, oh, I've come across some ancient ruins. A great random number generator. So if you have a deck of cards and you want to get into some RPG play and you don't have any dice, pick these up. Then you've got cards specifically designed to make RPG play easier. A lot of games offer box sets or starter packs these days, and a lot of those come with specifically designed cards for players to use. I haven't spoken about spectaculars on the channel, I don't think, yet, but believe me, I'm going to get around to it, because the amount of stuff in that box is amazing, and a large part of it is cards. You just draw a card during character creation for powers, and lo and behold, your character can have those powers. So purely at random, I can create a character who has beast control powers, or a superhero who has atomic energy control, or you can have your secret identity. So this superhero with atomic energy, beast control, could be a construction worker, and and these are only a small portion of the cards from that box, because well, the mess that it would make trying to pour all those out of a bin. But just something as simple as this. It's got all of your stats on there that you need to remember. And just having access to something like this whilst you're creating your characters just makes the game a bit more fun rather than having to do maths and write it down on a character sheet, but B, just so much easier. You've got, do I want to be a student? Do I want to be a socialite? Do I want to be an ex-con? Do I want those beast powers, or do I want extreme accuracy? And then when it comes to actual play, this deck of cards is from the Mouse Guard RPG. Again, just little references just to help you get on. So you've got your heavy armor with all the rules there. It makes you clumsy and it's heavy. You can choose your weapons. Just things for the players to have in front of them, just to refer to as and when, rather than having to flip through the book to go, okay, what are the rules for heavy armor again? Okay, index, no, okay, yeah, there it is, page 200, okay, Instead, you can just pick up the card and go, okay, I'm wearing heavy armor, which means it's -1 die to maneuver tests. Job done. Same, it's got cards for the various conditions. You've got tired, angry, etc., injured, sick. And then, when you want to play in combat, and there are lots of different box sets that have cards like these. I know the Avatar Legends has cards like this just off the top of your head. You choose a card, that's what you're going to do in the next combat round, play it. Again, just makes everything that bit easier. And plus, it's got cute little mice on the cards, and they can wear heavy armor. And other games like this is from Twilight 2000. I think these are actually from the Urban Warfare expansion, Urban Operations. These all help the players, but you've also got cards that can help the game master. So if the players are walking down the streets and things are getting a bit dull, the GM just pulls out this card and suddenly there's a sniper firing at them. Or there's a pop-up market and they get to interact with people. Or there's a street preacher who's preaching on the street. Or they've got to stop a robbery, burning building. The thing I love about cards designed specifically for games, for RPG play, is they are designed to make life easier. And make life easier they do. So if you have access to anything like this, make use of it, because anything that's going to take some of the thought power away, as far as I'm concerned, is a good thing. But also, it'll just put your clients' minds at ease. So plonk these cards in front of them, let them have a look at the cute, albeit bloodthirsty mouse, and that will just make the game that bit easier. And then on top of cards designed specifically to help with your role-playing games, you've got cards that are games in and of themselves. Some of them which you could use specifically with your RPG play. You've got Munchkin, which I'm sure a lot of people are familiar with. Basically, it's very much like your old school dungeon delve, the idea being that you break into a dungeon, you fight monsters, and steal the treasure. This is actually the Conan the Barbarian deck, because I love Conan the Barbarian. But even if you weren't playing Munchkin, if you wanted to play the RPG, it's got tons of good stuff. You could give your character some broken shackles and some gladiator armor. On one hand, he could have a fanged ring. He could have the burning skull, the cask of the burning skull, and he could have a Hyrcanian bow. There you go. You've just kitted out your character in much the same way as you did with Mouse Guard. If he could find the golden wine of Zuthal, or work to get ahead. Munchkin's a lot of crazy fun at the best of times, but if you want to add a bit of randomness and treasure. Just grab yourself any of the starter sets, and all of a sudden you've got tools to go with your RPG. The Pathfinder adventure card game, very much as it sounds like, is a game of the Pathfinder is a game of Pathfinder, the role-playing game, but played by cards. Each player chooses a character, gets a deck of cards based upon their abilities, and then they go exploring various locations and uses the cards to attack or cast spells, give blessings, meet allies, collect items. So Alahazra might want to cast strength on an ally, or black spot, or call for the Jinx Eater to come and help. It is basically an RPG played by cards. So instead of saying, okay, I'm going to cast Cure, I'm going to play Cure, there we go. You could ask your client to go, okay, so you're going to cure your ally. How do you do it? What does that look like for your character? And the art on the cards is evocative. It shows you what you've got. It shows you what you're up against. The art is really what sells a lot of these cards to me, as you'll start seeing momentarily. And when I say momentarily, I mean now, because I love these cards. These cards are from a game called Call to Adventure, and basically it's all about creating a backstory for an RPG character, or certainly a fictional character. I won't go into the full rules here and now, but basically the idea is you start off with a young individual, and then throughout the course of the game, as you draw more and more cards, and you draw runes rather than roll dice, more things happen to that character, and by the end of it, they're a grizzled protagonist ready for, an epic quest to Mount Doom. But just look at the art on these. You wouldn't even need to play this game. You could just show the clients your art, saying, okay, there's a queen, you can win the queen's favor, or you can depose her. There's a fiend, you can banish it, or you can bargain for power. You can drive back the demon army, or wield the sun's light. Just grabbing hold, a single game, Call to Adventure, having these in front of your client will just give them so many things to work with. Fighting against the warlord, the sorceress. The art is what sells a lot of these, as I say, and I look at that. You could enslave the forest spirit or restore the balance. Just looking at that, I can think, okay, there are so many things a client could do in their therapy with that one card alone. How did the character get to that forest spirit? What's the forest spirit saying? How's it behaving? What's caused the problem? And your clients will run wild with it. And this isn't strictly for role-playing games, but they're cards. This is ostensibly a therapy channel. The Ungame is an extremely good game for starting conversations. This is the teens version, you say. Basically, it's twice as many cards as this, and they've all just got not inspiration, just thought-provoking questions or comments. So, well, that's a pretty rubbish one to start with. But if you were stranded on an island, whom would you like for a companion? How do you best express yourself? Share a time when peer pressure influenced you. Was the outcome positive or negative? So, you could. They were on my pile of cards, so I thought it would be worthwhile showing you those. Great little conversation starter, especially with some clients who just don't really know how to get into the swing of things. And you could ask your clients these, but you could ask your clients these of their characters. So how important is it for their character to become rich? There are quite a lot of those. Choose. Describe the kind of car your character would like to own, or chariot, or horse, or, you know. Describe the ideal weekend for a character. Do they want to go dungeoneering? Do they want to sit in the tavern and get drunk? What would their character like to do on the ideal weekend? But yeah, so you've got games designed specifically to help your RPG run smoothly, and you've got games that you could just use to support your RPG. And then you've got narrative games. These cards, like any other kind of game, have specific rules, but those rules are designed to help you tell a story. These cards are from a game called Hobbit Tales, or Hobbit Tales from the Green Dragon Inn, as I recall the full title is. Oddly enough, these are Hobbit Tales is an expansion to the One Ring RPG. So although these cards are a game in and of themselves, you could also use them as supplements for your One Ring, or certainly the first edition game as well. But the idea being here, the players are a bunch of hobbits, the Green Dragon, having a drink, telling each other stories, and they use these cards to tell that story. So we could say the hobbit discovers some runes that leads him to cross a dangerous mountain path and have a curious conversation. Obviously, you know, you'd take a bit longer, you know, and you'd describe the runes, how did they get to the mountain pass, what the curious conversation is. But by using these prompts, you can literally follow the character from one curious adventure to the next until he's found the tomb that the runes were leading him to all along. I love these cards because they've got the images, they've got the titles, they've got the quotes. You could use all of them for inspiration. You could use any single one of them, and just it's a lot of fun, especially if you and your friends have had a couple of drinks and you're making some of the more random narrative choices, shall we say. But again, you know, if you're in the middle of playing scenario of the One Ring, as the GM, you put that, much like with the Twilight 2000 encounter deck, suddenly the group of companions runs into a travelling dwarf who has dreams, or they drink from an enchanted river and start having dreams of strange lands. Again, anything that encourages imagination is a plus, in my opinion, and if they look pretty, even better. And these cards, oh my goodness, they're pretty. These are from a game called Once Upon a Time, and actually a friend of mine, Brian Scott, has done a full video on Once Upon a Time in Therapy, so I'll put a link to that below. Basically, the idea being that each player is given an ending, and a deck of these cards, you've got characteristics, you've got places, events, and stuff like that. And the idea being that you've got to tell a fairy tale kind of story, as you can tell from the art style, using the cards that will culminate in their ending. So if I were to have this card in my hand, I would need to tell a story that could end so the village was restored to prosperity, and his mother was delighted with such an unusual gift. You know, what was the gift? Who knows? That'll come out in the telling. But that is the aim, and you get there using these cards. I believe these are all just character cards, yes, because I didn't have the courage to get all of, all the different types of cards out. But you know, I could tell a story about a king with a dog who is brave and rich, and who had to escape from a dungeon and get on a ship to some strange land filled with monsters and fight the dragon to get this unusual gemstone that he could give to his mother as a present. But again, the art here is very whimsical, very fairy tale-esque, and just putting something like this in front of a client just gives their brain something to work with. And if the brain has something to work with, you'll see the cogs of the imagination whirring. And of course, with all of these, you could just do the old, the good old therapy trick of just putting a few cards in front of your client and saying, choose one of these. Why did you choose that one? What is it about the pirate that speaks to you over the wizard? What if one of these cards represents you, pick a card to represent somebody. Nothing new there, but the art is cute and very child friendly and evocative. I also really, really like these cards. These are from a game called Mysterium, but the same company makes a game called Dixit. They're quote-unquote just random pieces of art, but I just love them. Put any of these in front of a client, ask them to tell you what's going on. You've got hours of conversation just there. I just want to show you these off. I love these pictures. And there are so many expansion packs. You could have an entire wall full of just these cards. So it's a birthday cake that is also a building with ropes running away from it with music. Floating over, is that lava or whatever? A wasteland of some kind. I don't know what's going on there. Can you tell me what's going on there? But if it's the same kind of world that has a fishbowl on top of a television with more fish on the bottom of the sea, lots of crazy adventures to be had. And the last one I'll show you of the narrative card set, if you like, these. It's called Mirrior Armor. Basically, it's just a series of cards, a deck of cards, but you just illustrated, no text on them. But as you'll notice, both sides line up, and so it doesn't matter which order you put the cards in, they will form a single continual picture. And I love these as an idea, but I really like this particular deck. So you've got your knight guarding a castle, you've got a young girl sneaking out of the cottage, meeting a goblin who's looking in the mirror, and coming up alongside death. Or, you could have the girl sneaking out of the cottage, meeting death, and bumping into some forest ghosts from the looks of it before going to the castle. And again, if you have something like this to put in front of your clients, they can tell the story. Who is the girl? Why is she sneaking away from the cottage? What's in the cottage? Is this death? Is it somebody who's died? Well, is he a friendly death? Is he there to find somebody's soul? Is he there to offer advice? Any number of things. Just put these in front of your client, let them do the imaginative work, and you can sit back and ask them probative questions that will help them reflect on their outlook, their issues, etc. Obviously you've got all of these cards in here, and when you think that they can go in literally any order at all, there's a giant foot. It's thousands upon thousands of different stories you could tell with that one deck alone. And again, you could just take any one of these cards in the middle of an RPG, plonk it in front of your client and say, okay, this happens, what does your character do? The character's wandering through some woods, a unicorn pops out, or you discover some ruins. Again, just let the imagination go, see where the story takes you, and the therapy will follow. And finally, for this video at least, you've got divination cards, so tarot cards and oracle cards, things like that. These have kind of a place in the collective unconscious. A lot of people see these as, you know, being able to tell people's fortunes or the future and stuff like that. But whether or not I subscribe to that theory, I certainly like the idea of them as reflective opportunities. You draw one of the cards, interpret it accordingly, and ask your client, does that resonate with them? And 9 times out of 10, you'll be able to help them figure out what they're thinking. So you've got the Six of Swords there, which is all about transitions, moving on in life. You've got the Five of Cups, which is regret, focusing on the negative in a situation and ignoring the positive. You've got King of Wands, which is kind of natural born leadership. So you could draw these cards and ask your client, do you feel like you're in a transitory period in your life? Are you focusing on the negative? Do you identify as someone who could lead others, or is there somebody you look up to? You just as starters to a conversation. Or again, you could use these as prompts for a story. You've got an individual there who is on a boat going on a journey. Who is that individual? Where are they going? They can't risk a frontal assault because that rabbit's dynamite, so how are they going to get past it? And who is the King of Wands? Is he a good guy? Is he a bad guy? Does he have to be vanquished? Does he have to be made an ally? Obviously you've got the magician there. Who's coming next? It's plenty of stories to tell. Or you could just, again, ask your client to look at the pictures and say, which of these speaks to you? Tarot decks come in tons of different shapes and sizes. You will find something that speaks to you art-wise. I mean, I've got a Marvel red tarot deck. I've got a red Sonya tarot deck. I've got witches. And I've got lots and lots and lots of other tarot decks on the way. I do like a good tarot deck, it has to be said. But whereas tarot decks tend to be pretty much the same from one deck to another, they've all got the same number of cards, the same suits, etc., or variations thereof. Oracle decks tend to be unique unto themselves, which means that the author has gone out their way to write definitions for each of the cards according to their own inspiration. And again, just stunning art across, just available. You will find something that speaks to you. I love the art in this deck. This is which one's this? Is this the Nature's Whispers Oracle cards, I believe? Yeah, Nature's Whispers. Again, you could use the divinatory side of things. So you draw a card, pause. Does it feel like you or your character need to take a pause right now? Ask the client to interpret it, or you could just look at the pictures, let them guide a story. A child facing a unicorn with a rainbow around the moon, a mermaid riding a seahorse. Just, if you find a deck of cards that has good art on it, that will just make the storytelling process so much easier. And again, just they come in all different shapes and sizes. This is one of the many Seasons of the Witch Oracle decks. This might well be my favorite deck that I own, partly because it has cards like Casserole and there's a Cinnamon Rolls one. But I just love this deck is a very positive one. It comes with a lot of, it encourages a lot of self-care. So if you're looking for one deck and one deck alone, Seasons of the Witch is a good bet. But again, and it's got shiny blue edges. But again, pop these in front of your client. Your character comes across Bridget. She's out under the moon, working away at a cauldron. What's going on? What's she cooking? Doing some arts and crafts. Eating Angelica, the horned owl. And you get turned into a house mouse. again, I think you'll probably have noticed that the through line with all of these is helping with the narrative, helping with the story. And I appreciate this has been a bit of a, yeah, okay, this. But and if you like, let me know, and I will do a bit of a slower look at individual decks, like Tarot and Oracle, for example. But if you have these tools in front of you, you can just use them in so many different ways to help with the mechanics of the RPG, to help with the narrative of the RPG, just to help with reflective exercises to help start conversation. If you have cards, please, please, please make use of them. You will be making your life so much easier. So then, cards in RPG therapy? Obviously, my primary aim with this channel is to demystify RPGs as a therapeutic intervention, / make them easier to use as part of the therapeutic process. Cards, like the ones I've just shown you, can be really, really helpful in this regard. They encourage reflection, they give struggling clients something to talk about, and in the hands of a good therapist, they can really help clients view their issues or situation from a new perspective. When it comes to the RPGs, they can really help both you and your client augment the story you're telling. They can give you pointers and inspiration of where to go or what to do next, that kind of thing. And you could, again, just use them instead of dice. A deck of cards is just as random as a die, and you can use your draw to dictate the outcome of a situation, much like how Colossal does, for example. And obviously, many of these little pieces of Dead Tree are outright games in their own capacity and can be played as such as part of the RPG. Or instead of the RPG, you know, you've got the Pathfinder adventure card game, or Hobbit Tales, or Once Upon a Time. All things that help you tell a story in their own unique little way. Incidentally, if you yourself actually want to become a game designer, card games are a really good first step because they're relatively cheap to produce as compared with, you know, those massive box sets that contain a board, tiles, miniatures, yada, yada, yada. But they can still give you valuable experience of how the process works. I've actually designed a couple of card games myself, and they can be great fun just to potter around with, both in terms of design and to play. You know, it's cool to play a game that you came up with. It's, yeah. I make no secret, I enjoy my products. And of course, you don't even need to invent an entirely new game. Just create your own cards, you know, encounters, characters, abilities, etc. to supplement your client's experience, and suddenly you have an entirely new tool at your disposal. But that's my take. How about yourselves? Do you have any go-to tools to help you with your sessions? Let us know in the comments below. While you're down there, please do like, share, subscribe, and hit the bell icon. Your support really does help the channel, and I'm so grateful to every single one of you who does that. You'll also find links to my book, Role-Playing Games and Psychotherapy, A Practitioner's Guide. And if you know anybody who could benefit from counselling, you'll also find a link to my website, Monomyth Counselling. Everyone, as usual, thank you so much for watching this video. I really look forward to speaking with you again next week. So until then, take it easy, don't do anything I wouldn't do, and have a good one. Cheers.